Welcome on into the Josh Reese Show. I'm your host, Josh Reese, and we have got to talk about the now, I guess it's official, it's now a feud between former Rockets coach Kevin McHale and his player, his one subordinate, James Harden. I'm not going to misconstrue anyone's quotes, so I'm going to let you hear from both Kevin McHale and James Harden, and I will share my thoughts on both afterwards. So first, this is Kevin McHale on open court as part of a panel talking about the Houston Rockets. So listen in to Kevin McHale and listen to him unprovoked bring up James Harden and his leadership.
To your old team, the Houston Rockets. Chris Paul now in that mix. Where does that place Houston in the Western Conference hierarchy?
I think it makes them a much better team because, you had James Harden with the ball, fantastic with the ball, great passer. The guy's got phenomenal vision. Talk about vision. James can see all the passes, do everything. But James is not a leader. He tried being a leader last year, tried doing that stuff. I think Chris Paul is going to help him just kind of get back into just being able to hoop and play and stuff like that. But on every team, you have to have a voice. On every team, you have to have somebody that when they say something, people listen. James, I'm like, wait, look, if James tells you, Chuck, you got to play better, do you listen to him? Like, you got to be kidding me. I lived through it. Believe me, everybody in the locker room did this. Like, every time he'd mention defense, everybody would put their head down like, you got to be kidding me. Chris Paul is going to push him too. Chris Paul is not going to, when he does that stab in the backcourt, doesn't get a foul, looking at the referee, not running back, Chris Paul is going to jump his butt, and that's going to make him a better player. So I just think Chris Paul will be good for James Harden. Put him, just it will allow him to just be what he is, which is a phenomenal basketball player, not trying to lead a team. That's just not his personality.
I'm not sure about that duo yet because when James Harden first came into the league, he played off the ball.
Yeah.
Six-man OKC. You guys brought him to Houston, put him on the ball. Now, Chris Paul, his whole career, he's been a guy that's on the ball. James Harden had his best year last year playing on the ball. Yeah. One of those guys is going to have to get off the ball. Which one? Take Chris Paul off the ball? I think Chris Paul is too small to be coming off screens. So you got to put him back on the ball, which puts James Harden to his original position. Is he going to pout? Is he going to play? I'm not sure if I'm confident in that duo yet. Time will tell.
And Shaq, he was on the ball, the harder it was to get him off the ball. Right. Like you'd run plays up to come off triple doubles and double screens. Right. He'd look at you like, how about you give me the ball? I'll just dribble it up. I'm coming off all this stuff. Yeah. He got kind of frustrated because as he got more comfortable with the ball, he didn't want none of that. Yeah, exactly.
So that was McHale, Harden's former coach. He gave Harden some props, calling him a really good player, but overall just really taking Harden to task for a lot of things that I think people on the outside have kind of criticized Harden over the years for being a little bit of a ball hog, as he mentioned, towards the end. And not only that, also just really blasting him on being not a leader, and someone who makes that type of money really should probably be more of a vocal leader, but he really isn't. So that was Kevin McHale, and now let's listen to James Harden's comments.
Honestly, he's never taught me anything, to be a leader. But I've done a great job. I think in the organization, my coaches, you can ask any of those guys, how I've worked extremely hard every single day to better, obviously be a basketball player, but to be a leader as well. Different types of leaders as well. So to go on air and downplay my name like that, it shows his character. And I usually don't go back and forth on social media with anybody or, with interviews, but, it's time to stand up for myself and there it is. But you just don't go and do that. Show the type of person he is.
Do you think he's bitter over the way that?
Sure, and I had nothing to do with it. I'm just here to do my job, compete, at the highest level that I can. But when you're here and you're face to face and you're telling me one thing, how great of a player you are, how lucky, that he's a part of to be in this process, and and then you go back, a few years later and just basically say the opposite. It shows your character, shows who you really are. And I'm not that type of person. I don't operate that way. I don't say things, to somebody behind their back or tell them one thing and then go on air and say another thing.
I think it's clear why we're hearing these comments from Kevin McHale. It should be loud and clear that Kevin McHale is still 100% bitter about the way he was treated at the end of his Rockets tenure, fired 11 games into the season after a bad 4-7 start in the 2015 season. I feel that Kevin McHale blames this 100% on James Harden. If you remember at the time, I believe it was Kevin McHale's wife that tweeted out that the firing was 100% because of James Harden. To this day, I still do not believe that James Harden had much to do in the firing of Kevin McHale. I think that this was a 100% move by Les Alexander. Now, for people who have followed the Rockets over the past couple years, for people who have followed the Rockets over the many decades that Les Alexander has owned the team, everyone knows that Les Alexander settles for nothing less than for championships. Of course, he's only reached that goal twice, but he's always doing things in order to get to that level. In 2014, the Rockets reached the Western Conference Finals. A year later, the Rockets struggled. Les Alexander made a snap decision. In my opinion, Les Alexander made a snap decision in order to try to spark the team, because it was essentially the same team as the 2014 team, and they came out of the gate really, really sluggish, and they just weren't able to recover. So Kevin McHale was pretty much the scapegoat of the season. And I know that Kevin McHale at the time, and of course after these comments, still feels that James Harden was the one that got him fired. I know that James Harden has a lot to do with everything that goes on in the Rockets organization. He has a lot to do with people that are on the team. Daryl Morey has mentioned how involved he is in the process of the Houston Rockets, but I don't feel that he went to Daryl Morey, he went to Les Alexander and said, "Look, I can't play for Kevin McHale anymore." Kevin McHale just took James Harden to the Western Conference Finals. Why would James Harden, months later, just randomly like, "Look, I can't play with him. I can't do it, guys. I can't do it." That was my thoughts about Kevin McHale getting fired at the time. I still believe it. I know Kevin McHale obviously does not see that and feels that James Harden had a much bigger role, and that is why he is still a little bit hell bent on trying to roast James Harden. And it feels just kind of random. I know McHale has not been the most staunch supporter of the Houston Rockets ever since he's been let go by the team, but I can't remember times that he's brought out this about James Harden. This is certainly the harshest he has criticized Harden since leaving the Rockets. I know he's never really criticized Harden extremely hard, as an employee of the team when he was a head coach, but he would throw shade from time to time. Kevin McHale, he was a Hall of Famer. What are they going to do? Fire him? Well, eventually they did. So while I do feel that, these comments were a little bit unwarranted, I do feel that, I think there's a little bit of truth to what Kevin McHale did say. I think that Harden is not, I don't think he's the same type of leader that Kevin McHale probably, experienced when he, played in Boston. I'm sure, Bill Russell and, Larry Bird, 100% different types of leader than James Harden. I think James Harden is the type of guy that, I don't want to say leads by example, but you know what? He plays at a certain level and he expects the other guys around him to play at a certain level. That doesn't necessarily equal, a leader that gets into people's faces and asks them to play super hard defense, asks them to, commit 100%. That's not the type of guy he is. He's not like Kobe Bryant. He's not a guy that's, a quote unquote killer on the court. While James Harden can get hot from time to time, he doesn't have that mean streak that I think Kevin McHale is might be alluding to. And I don't want to say necessarily mean streak, but is as vocal. Kobe, vocal. LeBron James, kind of throws a little bit more shade than vocal, but there's a lot of different guys. There's a lot of different types of leaders, and I do agree with Kevin McHale that while James Harden is not that type of leader, I think that now with Chris Paul, they do have that type of leader on the team that can kind of, I don't want to say call out people, but demands people to follow him and has the resume behind him to back it up. I do think that will do wonders here in Houston. I think Chris Paul is going to do very well. And maybe he can eventually kind of coax a little bit of leadership out of James Harden, a little bit more vocal leadership, because I do feel that there is a leadership in James. It's just a little bit different than other people are used to across the NBA. James Harden, he's a quiet guy. He's not a guy that's going to be, calling out players in the media. This by James Harden calling out Kevin McHale, that is by far one of the fiercest things that James Harden has done since being a member of the Houston Rockets. While that video that I posted that video I shared from Jonathan Feigen's Twitter says that he called Kevin McHale a clown, I didn't necessarily hear it, but that just might be because Feigen, turned on the, recording a little bit too late. But James Harden calling someone a clown? No, that doesn't happen. James Harden, when you try to coax these kind of, I don't want to say coax, but James Harden, when you bring him controversial issues about stuff, that might affect him or about just random things, James Harden, I don't want to say turns the other cheek, but he just totally, ignores stuff like that. James Harden will will bend over backwards trying to ignore something controversial. He will be, like, hey, I'm just focused on the game. I'm just focused on starting the season off right. I'm trying to get to better with my teammates, blah, 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 blah. Calling someone a clown, saying that I never learned anything from Kevin McHale, that by far is the fiercest thing James Harden has ever done here in Houston. And it just goes to show you how upset that he is with Kevin McHale. Really, there is no need for Kevin McHale to come out in the media and say these types of things. It's really nothing but a bitter Kevin McHale, and it's unfortunate because I think Kevin McHale was held in a kind of high esteem from Houston Rockets fans. But I think that might be starting to wane, certainly. James Harden, I think, leads a little bit differently than Kevin McHale is probably used to, like I mentioned. I think Chris Paul is going to do wonders here in Houston. I think that Chris Paul is going to show James Harden how to bring out that inner leader inside of you. Dwight Howard certainly wasn't that person that was going to bring it out of James Harden, even though, You pay a lot of money to guys, and you kind of hope they are that leader, but they are not. They sometimes do not turn out to be that way. I will end it with this, as I feel like I've just kind of been ranting and rambling about a lot of different things. But as I try to bring everything full circle, even if James Harden is not a leader, even if you want to agree with Kevin McHale and say James Harden is not a leader, I think you have to admit that James Harden is, I'm trying to find the right analogy, but this is the best thing I can come up with. James Harden is a great soldier. He'll do what he's told. He'll execute the plan to the best of his ability. He will get shit done. What James Harden needs, in my opinion, what James Harden needs is a general. He needs a captain. He needs a lieutenant. James Harden needs that person to give him the game plan, to tell him what to do, to bring out the best out of James Harden. I think that Chris Paul is that guy. I think that Mike D'Antoni and Jeff Bzdelik are doing that for James Harden. I think this team that James Harden has around him is helping bring the best soldier out of James Harden. Now, this is where I kind of will throw Kevin McHale under the bus. If Kevin McHale was the right man for this team, he would have been able to get the most out of James Harden. Greg Popovich, Eric Spoelstra, lots of coaches around the NBA are able to get great things out of their players. Kevin McHale, for whatever reason, he got Harden to a certain level, but he wasn't able to bring him through that level. And I think this is a culmination of all that. This is why you're seeing the fight from James Harden. This is why you're seeing so much feistiness in all these comments, because James Harden is a little bit frustrated. Yeah, Kevin McHale probably didn't show you the ropes the right way that another coach could have, i.e. Mike D'Antoni. I think that right now in this situation, Mike D'Antoni, Jeff Bzdelik, and Chris Paul are going to bring the absolute best out of James Harden. He still might fall. He still might end up second in the running for MVP again this upcoming season. But it won't be because James Harden is not an amazing player, an amazing soldier. Because people want to give it to LeBron James, or Kawhi Leonard is having a fantastic season and keeping the Spurs in the top 3 seeds, or it'll be because Russell Westbrook averages a triple-double. That's pretty much all I have. I feel like I don't know if I've made very many points during this whole rant. I feel it was just more rants than anything. But hopefully I made a couple points during this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this. But that's pretty much all I got on this feud between between James Harden and former Rockets coach Kevin McHale. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, a share, and a subscribe. I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also, let me know what you think about this from James Harden. Do you feel that James Harden is a leader? Do you feel that Kevin McHale is just a bitter old man, for lack of better words? What do you think about these comments that you can listen to earlier in the video between Kevin McHale, or from Kevin McHale and James Harden? Let me know your thoughts. And with that said, this has been the Josh Reese Show. Once again, I'm your host, Josh Reese, and we will be back next time.